It's 2020, so as of yesterday, Kim is, you guessed it, quarantining. She is fine, and we are just being extra safe here tonight. But without Kim, all of us are going to have to really up our game tonight to make Kim proud. So as an idea, why doesn't everybody just go ahead right now and put $50 on every single Story Slammer just to honor Kim's great work in our community? All you folks out there who are snug and safe in your homes, get ready for a germ-free night out to support families and children in this community who have no homes. We are back once again here at Ohav Shalom Temple with a very small, masked, and socially distanced, wildly enthusiastic studio audience. Thank you, everybody. Over the past 8 years, over 80 slammers have told their stories. Our slam alumni are a mind-boggling mix of diverse personalities and circumstances. Broadcaster, DJ, Derby Queen, NATO Admiral, a Sports Illustrated collector, and the sax man from under the Granby Street overpass. Kim and our committee bump into these folks on the street, at dry cleaners, or even once at a funeral. We find our storytellers everywhere, and for all of you storytellers out there, help us find you for next year. Just go to the gym with Kim. Go shop with Jill. We will find you. We are really grateful for all our slammers telling their stories. They're all competing tonight and for the next week for your votes and for the coveted Slammy Award. This is way more prestigious than the Tony, the Oscar, or the Grammy. And this year's Slammy is brought to you by Chris Calvert, owner of Yukon Lumber, Hampton Roads' source for extraordinary wood. Thank you, Chris, and his wife, Laura, for making our Slammy and sponsoring this event. Speaking of our sponsors, we have some great ones, and they're all partners in our work to lift families and children out of homelessness. We are so grateful for their shared vision. Now, in the fullest flavor of our storytelling slam, we take you to the little library nook at ForKids, where Shirley Brackett, a former slam champ and our crisis response director at ForKids, will share a tale of sponsor love. Shirley?
Come on over, I've got a story for you. Today we're going to read A Tale of Sponsor Love by Thaler McCormick. Once upon a time there was a beautiful princess named Kelly Sokol. She lived in a one-of-a-kind castle built by the giants of Yukon Lumber and drove a magical vehicle gifted to her by Duke Automotive. One day she was visited by a fairy who brought her a mysterious concoction brewed at Cova Brewing. It was said to transport anyone who consumed it to the land of perpetual motion and mission, where they could receive guidance from the lady of the land herself, Ms. Kim Fink. As Princess Kelly sat on her velvet throne from decorum furniture, she pondered if she should drink the concoction. She has only ever drank lemonade from Parker Duke's lemonade stand since the day she was born. Her orthodontist at Bivens Orthodontics insists that the lemonade has mystical qualities that will keep her smile as pretty as a picture forever and ever. Princess Kelly sought advice from the law office of Charlene Mooring and her besties, Lori and Chris Calvert. They all agreed that Kelly should take a sip only after she found a reliable friend to watch over her castle. Her friends Chip and Barbara Sutland agreed to house sit for the princess. Princess Kelly's friends at Saunders, Matthew, and Fitzner would naturally keep watch over her dowry, since she was betrothed to Prince Cooper Hurley, a very successful injury lawyer. Princess Kelly got all of her affairs in order and rescheduled her appointment with Mid-Atlantic Eye Care. She was ready. Princess Kelly gingerly took a sip, waited a moment, and then took another sip. Zip, zap, zing! There she was, right in front of the Lady of Perpetual Motion and Mission, Kim Fink herself. Surrounding Kim were the fairies of the Nicholson 4A Charitable Foundation. Princess Kelly rubbed her eyes to make sure she wasn't dreaming. The fairies and Kim came back into view clear as day thanks to the great care she had recently received at Wagner Retina and Macula Centers. Lady Kim spoke and shared her wisdom with Princess Kelly. "Princess Kelly," she said, "you took a risk in sipping the potion from the fairies. You clearly are a brave young lady. I also understand that you have agreed to marry Prince Cooper, but only if he agrees to help the homeless of your kingdom by hosting an annual fundraiser with the Nicholson 4A Charitable Foundation. This, my dear, tells me that you are a kind-hearted one. I would like to share this with you, my sweet. You may not understand this now, but you will one day. Despite our trials, despite our daily hurdles and speed bumps, despite rain on your glorious parade, if you approach life with a kind heart and the humor of Saturday morning cartoons, if you allow yourself to see life through rainbow-colored glasses, if you snack on mixed beans and fruit in syrup that you can only find on the shelves of Shirley's Corner Market on Andrew Fink Drive, it will all be funny eventually." The end.
Thank you, Shirley. We love our sponsors. We also love the great folks from JPix who are filming and producing your virtual experience tonight. And for all our viewers out there tonight, you are the ones that are actually going to play the biggest role in the storytelling fundraising competition. Without you, nobody wins. So, cast as many votes as your credit cards will allow in our Click, View, and Vote campaign starting right now and through the next week. Go to ForKids.org, click on the Slammer link, view and vote, or text Slammers to 41444. All right, so right now, I need a show of hands. Who out there has actually been to all of the Story Slams? Seen all 80? All right. It's a trick question. If you raise your hand, I can't see your hands. So we're virtual. I need everybody to put in your hands raised, your praise, your chats, everything in our chat tonight. Don't hold back. Send them to us, and we will share as many of them as we can. Now, to kick off our competition, we're going to hear from the 2019 Story Slam champ, Parker Duke, who broke all previous voting records as the youngest slammer to compete at 12 years old. Here is Parker Duke.
Hi, it's Parker Duke, the 2019 Story Slam champ. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you tonight, but I am rooting for all the slammers and for you to raise a bunch of money for 4Kids. I also want to update you on my story, When Life Gives You Lemons, Add Chocolate. The story about my lemonade stand that benefits 4Kids. 2020 would have been my 8th annual lemonade stand, but due to COVID, we had to pause. But we know 4Kids needs help, so we decided to make up some flyers. I handed those out door to door in my neighborhood. I'm happy to report that we got a great response. In October, I was able to go to the Suffolk Center and present 4Kids with $6,153. This is an update over the last 8 years through my lemonade stand. We've been able to donate $33,488.46. Stay tuned for the 9th annual Parker Duke Lemonade and Cookie Stand in August of 2021. Good luck to all the slammers. I am rooting for you and 4Kids.
Parker Duke's story is pretty legendary here at 4Kids. He's raised over $25,000 through his lemonade stand each August, and he set the bar for this year's Slammers by raising $7,400 last year for votes. Right on! Our Slammers of 2020 are working hard to break his record, but they will only do that with your help. And our Slammers also have one more challenge tonight. An anonymous donor will award 250 votes by donating $250 to 4Kids. For each slammer, they can bring their story in under 5 minutes, and $100 for the slammers that deliver in under 6 minutes. If they're over 10 minutes, they need to pay us. It's time now to introduce our master of ceremonies, the 2-time Emmy-winning Joe Flanagan. Who better to MC an evening of than one who spent 32 years as a reporter, news anchor, and the host of Joe's Jobs. We just happen to have a picture from 1992. Parker Duke was not born yet, during the Doodah Day Parade in Norfolk. Here you can see Joe's Corps parading down the street, all dressed up as a profession and with Joe mask. That is some serious Joe love. we love Joe too, and are proud and pleased this evening that Joe has returned to the Slam as a Slam alum and RMC. Let's welcome the many-in-one Joe Flanagan.
Well, thank you, Taylor. I still have those masks. Lots of those masks at home. Folks, once upon a time, that is how all good stories begin, no? In this case, again upon a time. What a pleasure to return to StorySlam, now 9 years old. It's come a long way, baby, and I'm honored to be a part of this pioneering effort to be fully virtual as we all face the challenges of this pandemic, especially those most fragile families served by ForKids. Okay, so this Joe's job is to get the stories going. The Slammer's job is to entertain and engage you and win your votes. Then it will be your job, all gazillion of you out there, to vote for your favorite Slammer or Slammers, giving them a chance at the coveted Slammy Award, and the children and families we serve a chance to write their own stories, complete with happy endings. Our first Story Slammer is no stranger to the stage. In fact, he is a global stage runner. At the age of 30, he rewrote his entire story, a recreation as he calls it. His recreation began with shedding a body's worth of weight, 130 pounds worth. Then it was on to tamp down his alcohol consumption. The mixture of new habits rippled into a successful career as a sales executive, and the official title was 2013 #1 business sales executive in the world. You can Google his many accomplishments or just sit back and enjoy him in person, virtually in person, as he slams for your votes tonight with his story, Blinded by My Own Behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, Kinja Dixon.
What did you learn during this year, 2020? I learned which mask properly fits my face based on my style of breathing. I also learned how to create an at-home workout program to attempt to push my body to the outer limits because of all my gyms being closed. But one of the most important things I learned is that my definition of essential has changed over the last decade. In the dictionary, the word essential means absolutely necessary. And my way of seeing just how much that word has changed within is by gauging what was considered essential or absolutely necessary within the economies around the world. And as I continue to do my research, these were the three that stuck out the most because at many times in my life, they were considered essential, but now, not so important. The first one, ABC stores. For most of my life, when it came to in celebration or to relieve stress, I got heavily intoxicated. Until October 31st, 2009, when I had my last alcoholic beverage, because I noticed that alcohol was becoming a form of therapy, and that's a very dangerous way to live. The second one, divisive news stories. In 2010, I voluntarily disconnected all of the television service in all of my homes because I noticed that I was slowly being programmed even though I had the remote control in my hand. And as I continue to study more and more about myself, I keep seeing the similarities that I have with everyone that I come in contact with versus the minor differences that are publicized on a regular basis. And the last one, competing within the workforce. When I was 24 years old, I went through my first and last corporate shutdown where the company I worked for had to close its doors in every single office throughout the United States of America because of dishonest leadership. And it forced me to start studying assets versus liabilities and the importance of mastering your craft. And that habit, and I thank the universe led me to retiring at the age of 34 after winning two of the highest honors that anyone could win in the profession that I just retired from. See, we've all went through many unique stages to get to where we currently are. And based off humanity's track record, the chances that we're going to go through another crisis is very high. So as we prepare for 2021, I would like to share 3 essential principles that I believe can assist in anyone's journey, no matter what we go through in the future. First one is, if you're going to have a list of activities that you do when it comes to celebration or relieving stress, at least make sure most of them extend your lifespan. The second one, seek to understand the views of others, even if they disagree with you, instead of only wanting your voice to be heard. And lastly, master your craft and take a percentage of every single penny that you make and invest it in some type of an asset and only compete with yourself. As a former 300-pound functional alcoholic who used to only care for himself, that is transformed into someone that is dedicated the rest of my life to sharing and caring with all people, no matter who they are, even though I have a very long way to go, the spirit behind these eyes has seen many levels of recreation. I hope that within these few minutes that I've been honored to share with you, there's something that you can take away from it that can help you transform into a version of yourself that you might not see at this moment. No matter where you are in the world, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your time and love you.
Superpowers. Let's give our guiding guru his due. Give it up for Kinja Dixon. That was outstanding. Well, that's what I call inspired applause. Okay, our next slammer has slammed once before. In fact, Admiral Tom Steffens won his first Slammy back in 2014. Yep, he is back to claim his second. Now, for 34 years, he traveled the world as a naval officer and, yeah, a Navy SEAL. So you can just imagine the sea stories Tom Steffens can tell. His last assignment was Director of Anti-Terrorism. Whoa. Today, Tom is president of a private consulting firm called Achilles Heel. Love that name. A former board chairman of ForKids, back to take another swipe for the Slammy. Here is Admiral Tom Steffens, the title of his tale, Viva la Difference, the summer of 1973. Let's hear it for the Admiral.
How's that? Okay.
Minor point.
When Kim asked me to come back and tell a story, I thought I'd tell you a story about Haiti. It was 1973. Watergate was in full bloom. Richard Nixon was president. And we were looking for some good news, and so we were sending aid out to many countries. And I led a detachment of 15 frogmen down to Haiti to clear a harbor so that cruise ships could come in and tourism would go up. And then I thought, I'll tell them about how we did that. And so we brought 20 tons of explosives, 40 pounds to a box, and we took those explosives, laid them out in the harbor in 500-pound increments. And then I thought I'd tell you that when we did that, the fishermen loved us because with each blast, we killed thousands of fish. I know. But we killed thousands of fish, and they would come sweeping in. then I thought, well, I could describe to all our viewers how it was like a biblical event. I mean, they were reaping the fish in just as the apostles did when Jesus said, lower your nets, and it almost swamped the boats. Then I didn't know if that would be interesting. And then I thought, oh, I know what would be interesting, the boxes themselves. You know, they came 40 pounds to a box, so that's 1,000 boxes. Think about that. What do you do with all that? Well, these boxes were made out of some of the finest wood in the world, and there's a shortage of wood in Haiti. Nothing goes to waste there. So what did the Haitians do? Well, the Haitians came, and they took those boxes, and every morning we would come down, and we would open them up, and we'd cut the straps off these boxes, and we'd cut them clear, and we'd make sure that these boxes were cleared away so we could do our job. Well, when we did that, I didn't care what happened to the boxes. One day, Joseph, our Haitian translator, came over and said, I've got 700 boxes in the warehouse, which is actually a tomato canning factory. What do you want to do with these? I said, I don't want the boxes. He said, you don't want those? It's incredible. I mean, all that wood. So, in about 40 minutes, all 700 of those boxes were gone, and all I could see, and they're not that light, and all I could see were these women walking down the road with 3 boxes stacked on their head like you see the pictures of people carrying water. It was quite impressive. Then I thought I'd tell you, on day 40 while we were there, a plane crashed. In fact, there was a commercial plane that my wife had flown in on, the same aircraft a week earlier. And there were 13 people tragically killed in it. We went up, recovered the bodies, lowered them down the escarpment, brought them back. And I thought it was my duty to probably go to the funeral for some reason. And when I went to the funeral, here were 12 caskets. We never did find out what happened to that 13th body. But the caskets were made out of the wood from these boxes. And you can see on the side on some of these boxes are the words that are burned into it, return to nearest naval ammunition depot. And then I thought I'd tell you about what was going on with the ruling class, and then what happened when they tried to overthrow the government. And then I'd tell you about, but you know, I'm not going to tell you about any of those things. No, because the story tonight is the story of a 27-year-old mother with a 9-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter who was working hard in April of this year, and COVID hit and the business closed, and the next thing that they knew, she was out of a job. Her sister took her in, but the landlord told the sister, no, 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 I rented you this apartment for 4 people and now you have 7 people in it. If you keep this up, I'm going to evict you all. So the sister told her she'd leave, and she was out on the street and didn't know where to go. Fortunately, she knew of the ForKids hotline, and she called that number. And when she arrived at Haven House, the 9-year-old was clearly in charge. He took his mom by the hand and he led her up to the door, and that door opened, and that ForKids staff member there welcomed her with open arms, gave her food. She was in shock. She was in that shock of, where am I going to get my food tomorrow? That's the story of the Story Slam. And you make that story by voting not only for it, but for every other story. So when you get a chance, press number 2 there and make sure that you make it worth your while. Thank you very much. God bless you and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Nice. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you for your 34 years of service. And thank you for trying for the Slammy again, but you have some hot competition like our next competitor, the next king of barbecue who hails from South Norfolk. Joe Josu, love that Joe name, along with his wife Vicki and the Civic League of South Norfolk in Chesapeake have enthusiastically welcomed ForKids and the new Center for Children and Families to the neighborhood. Joe's story is titled Forward Ever, Backward Never. It speaks to the indomitable spirit Joe gained from his family. The overstuffed suitcase he carries, packed with hindsight lessons learned, brings his story home. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Josu.
Thank you, Joe, for that introduction. Get my little prop set up here. Okay. Good evening. My name is Joe Sue, and the title of my story is Oh Hell, Forward Ever, Backward Never. Now, forward ever, backward never is the Joe Sue motto. It kind of says, take what life gives you, make the best of it, move forward, and don't look back. Now, the oh hell part of it is what those things that life throws at you. Joe Sue. I bet you don't know anyone else that has three first names for their name. Joe Sue. Well, it runs rampant in my family. I have a brother named Bo Joe Sue. I have a sister named Sandra Joe Sue. And I have another sister with the kicker, Sue Joe Sue. Well, if it's not bad enough, my real name is Alfredo Carranza Joe Sue Jr. Oh hell, that's a mouthful right there. So I guess Joe Sue is not that bad. I'll take that. Well, even the Joe Sue name is a little bit sketchy, and I'll tell you a little story on that. My father was a Filipino, and during the war, he fought with the guerrillas alongside the United States troops in the Philippines. Well, after the war, Dad said that there was a truck with a sailor on it, rode through the middle of the village and said, if you want to be in the Navy, jump on board. Well, Dad did. So he's at the next time when they do the roll call, he's standing in line. And he's hearing the chief call out names. They get finished with it, and the chief comes over and asked him, he said, why didn't you say here? And Dad said, well, I never heard you say my name. He said, well, what is your name? Alfredo Josue. He said, well, how do you spell that? He said, Josue. Yeah, Joe Sue. That's what I said. So just like it sounds. So next time you hear Joe Sue, you better answer here. Oh, hell, I'm in the Navy now. So man changes my dad's name just like that. Imagine that happened this day and time. But that's the way it is. He's in the Navy. Next thing you know, Dad's stationed in Norfolk. He meets my mother at a USO dance over in Berkeley, right across the Berkeley Bridge in Norfolk. Lo and behold, they fall in love. She has me at 16 years old. I always used to kid my mom and say, Mom, you're getting old. Mom would say, son, if I'm getting old, you're getting old right behind me. So now Mom has her oh hell moment. Dad comes home one day from the ship and it says, we're getting stationed in California. And you and JoJo are going with me. So 5 years. So this is where the suitcase comes into the picture. Mom now is 17 years old with a child, and she's got to get on a train and go for 5 days on a train and travel to California, leaving all family and friends. Everything that we own is in this suitcase. And I've often thought about it, you know, what it took for her to leave and do that, move forward. But I've also often thought, if that's all we had to our life in that suitcase, we didn't have very much. So when Thaler called me and asked me about doing a story for the Story Slammers, I said, well, I've got a story, and that story is this suitcase. Because not only did it remind me of the things that we didn't have and how we made the best of it, but it also reminds me of, at this day and time, seeing mothers with a child in tow, with everything they own in a backpack or a suitcase, just like we did, looking for some place to go, someone to help them, have hope, and a place to move forward. Well, that place to move forward is ForKids. So I want to repurpose this suitcase now and make it a challenge to anyone that wants to support me and my friends, that we're going to fill this suitcase up with money and give that to the 4Kids, and so we can support those folks so they can help these other people, these families that are out there. And I want to be the first to donate a $100 bill. So remember, forward ever, backward never. Thank you.
And thank you, Joe. I do like that name. Now, to see the now fabled suitcase up close and personal and get an amazing meal, all you got to do is head over to Southside Barbecue, where Joe will have it open and collecting votes to benefit 4Kids. On your way, drive by 4Kids Center for Children and Families, under construction a block away there in South Norfolk and Chesapeake. Tell the owner, Joe Josu, that Joe sent you. Okay, folks, with 3 down, it's a good time to check a Story Slam video, which highlights Story Slam's past by filmmaker Simon Fink. When we come back, the intrepid Thaler McCormick will tell her story. That's really not in the script. I wonder what that's all about.
I'm gonna tell you a story.
There's people having sex in my truck.
How many of you have killed tropical fish?
There is a very good reason there are armed guards in bingo parlors.
I do want to thank 4Kids for this opportunity.
Even though it was such a hard time for my family and we were struggling, 4Kids helped push us really hard to just continue to do well in school and not have to worry about all the struggles.
The people at 4Kids are just awesome.
Welcome to the stage.
I told you something he never heard from his mother. You can get anything you want, son.
I've never been in a fight before.
I was no longer just kind. I was beautiful.
All right, we've switched my mic, so hopefully everybody can hear you now. But we really appreciate and are so grateful to Simon Fink for that great video and for working sound for us tonight. Thanks also to our terrific Story Slam committee, led by co-chairs Kim Simon Fink and Jill Broom. And finally, I also want to take a minute to thank our 4Kids team, who work heroically hard all year long to give homeless families in this community a happy ending. They've been on the front line through this pandemic, assisting 3 times as many families as ever before and learning to do it all in new ways to keep our families safe. COVID-19 is profoundly impacting the families in our community. Our housing crisis hotline now receives over 3,000 calls per week from many households who have never had to ask for assistance before in their lives. They need your help, so we need your help. Vote for your favorite slammers and help 4Kids families. Go to forkids.org and click on the Story Slam link. Pick your slammers, cast your votes, and check out by credit card. You can also text slammers to 41444 and vote on your phone. Or you can back your pickup full of cash or jars of coins to any of our local offices. Voting's going to last starting this weekend through next weekend. We're going to announce votes every day at 5:30. Our Slam champion will be announced on Instagram and Facebook and our website on Monday, November 23rd.
All right, Thaler, good stuff. Now, I got to say, this whole theme of hindsight being 2020, a little story comes to mind. Thaler, you'll like this one. Wheel of Fortune came to town way back in the 90s, and they were on the aircraft carrier at the naval base, and I was down there to cover the story. At the end, I'm interviewing Vanna White in her dressing room, and it was about this big. And I'm thinking the whole time I'm talking to her, maybe at the end I can ask her to give me a little peck on the cheek. I had done that in other stories, and it worked. Back in the 80s, the ladies loved it when I'd ask them that. Little peck, innocent, no harm, no foul. Interview ends. So Vanna, just for fun, would you mind giving me a little peck on the cheek to end this feature? And I mean, she's 2 inches from my face because the dressing room is so tiny. And she says, I don't do kisses. I'm dying. All I wanted to do was run out of the room, and my photographer says, "Stay there. I got to get some cutaways." So I'm this close to Vanna's face while he runs over and takes shots of me, supposedly looking real nice, and here's Vanna just staring at me. I'm dying. I thought you'd like that, Taylor. My wife hates it. Sorry, Cindy, I had to tell it. All you, or back to me?
All right. Well, I too have hindsight, and it brings a little story to mind. So I'm 18 years old, just back from college, and it is Christmas Eve. I have not actually bought any presents. A little behind, usually am, but it's a problem. I wake up that morning and I think I got a plan. I am going to head out and drive. I'm from a little town in southeastern Ohio called Gallipolis. I'm going to drive an hour to the Huntington Mall, which is really the only place you can do major shopping. But the day starts late. My mom's got chores for me to do. I wake up late. I get a late start. Yeah, about 4 o'clock, I hit the road. The mall's open till 9, so I'm running across the river, taking that road up along the river, through the middle of nowhere to get to Huntington. And I'm feeling good. I'm on track. And I'm driving down the highway, and then there's this slow car in front of me. I think it's actually stopped, but as I slow down, I get up on that car. I realize it's driving like really slowly, about a couple miles an hour. And then I notice it's got a flat tire, and it's just flap, 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 flap. And I start to go around the car, and I think, please let it not be a little old lady. I just really don't want this to be a little old lady. And I get around the car, and I look, and it is a very old lady driving that car. So I think, all right, it's Christmas. I need to help. So I pull over the front, and she's still driving about 1 mile an hour, and I'm walking next to her, tapping on the window, and say, you know you got a flat tire? She said, that's why I'm driving so slowly. And I was like, well, you know, you're not supposed to drive on flat tires. Why don't you pull aside, and I'll help you. So very distrustfully, she pulls off the road. I swing into action, go in the back of her car, a rusted out old station wagon, open it up. There are actually old trees back there. I don't know why. I dug through piles, pull out this really threadbare spare, and look for the jack. There's no jack. I'm like, all right, I have jack, and I know how to do this. My dad taught me this. Go to my trunk, pull out my jack, start to do the tire, and then the lug nuts are rusted on. So I'm like, oh, well, I can't do this. So what does a girl do if she needs to change a tire? She stands at the side of the road and looks like she needs help. Sure enough, at a truck come by, nice young country boy said, ladies, do you need some help? I said, I do need some help. He jumps out, uses my jack, changes that tire. It's all done. It's great. I'm feeling good. You know, only about 45 minutes has gone by. I still have time. He drives off with a wave. She drives off without a word. And I'm still feeling good. I get in my car, and I look for my keys. There are no keys. I have locked them in my trunk. By now, it's getting dark and very cold. And I look around, look up on the hill, see where I can walk to. There is a very creepy old house, kind of like picture the Bates Motel, no paint. I'm certain a serial killer lives there. And then there's this old broken down trailer. I choose the trailer, head up to the trailer, trying to figure out how I'm going to explain how I've actually locked my keys in the car on a country road in the middle of nowhere. Knock on the door. They come to the door, and it looks like a couple from American Gothic. So I explain this little problem I have. I need to use their phone and, blast from the past, their yellow pages. They think I might actually be a serial killer. But grudgingly, they get me their phone, the yellow pages. I call AAA. The closest person to help unlock my car is in Huntington. So I call them. That's still about 50 minutes away. They answer the phone and they say, "Where are you?" I don't know where I am. I said, "Well, I'm about 15 minutes out of Point Pleasant-ish." He says, "Is that near Okie Farley's place?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let me ask these people that think I'm so creepy." I was like, is Okie Farley anywhere near here? He said, "It's a house right next door, Bates Motel." I tell the dispatcher I am right in front of Okie Farley's place. Please come get me. So 50 minutes, very creepy, long wait outside of Okie Farley's house. The AAA guy comes up. He makes me explain why I've actually locked my keys in the car on a country road in the middle of nowhere. I tell him the story. He gets my key out, no time at all, starts packing up, and he stops and he looks at me and he says, "You know what the moral of this story is, don't you?" I have no idea. Then he spits a long string of tobacco out towards the river. I was like, so what? What's the moral to this story today? He said, "Next time you see a little old lady on the side of the road broken down, keep walking." So after 30 years, I have not learned to keep walking or driving or anything else, and nobody else at 4Kids has either. And that is the very reason you're supporting us tonight. So a whole group of people that don't keep driving, they help little old ladies, families, and children, and they all need your help tonight. So vote, vote, vote.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Taylor. What a story. I drive to Ohio all the time because I'm from there too. I know exactly where you're talking about. Great stuff. I think all that deserves wild applause. Did we hear some wild applause earlier? Did you like Thaler's story as much as I did? Well, vote for Thaler. Even though she's technically not allowed to win, you got my vote, Thaler. That was great. Okay, everybody, we'll settle back in here because here comes a dynamic duo as our next slammers of the evening. Zachary and William. Zach Casey is in the IB program at Granby High School. He rows crew, plays on the b-ball team, and according to Zachary, he's got an amazing collection of Sports Illustrated magazines. I'd like to see those. William McCormick is a senior at Morey. He's captain of the lacrosse team and runs cross country. It says here he's a member of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and a virtuoso on the harmonica. Give it up for Zach and Will with Ding Dong Dash.
When 4Kids approached William and I to do a story, we were at a loss. How were we, two high school boys, supposed to find a story that was both interesting and we could reflect on it? We were 100% confident in every single one of the decisions we have ever made.
Well, then we remembered the time the police got called on us. But that was like a one-time thing.
Now, you might be wondering, two nice young men? Probably the epitome of maturity? How were the police called on us? I'll take you back. It was freshman year, and our parents were at a party. That means we had full reign of the house. PG-13 movies, root beer, a little game of poker in between. It was going to be a crazy night.
However, as most 14-year-old boys get, we were bored within the first 5 minutes of being home. So I made the executive decision to go wander outside the neighborhood. Not exactly looking for trouble,
but not necessarily running from it.
After about 5 minutes of walking around, we ran into an employee at the bakehouse at Chelsea, my family's bakery, located at 1233 West Olney Road, Norfolk, Virginia 23507.
An artisan bakery known for pastries, pizza, and bread. Now, talking to his good friend Kenny, he was initially surprised to see us out so late. And he said, "Don't get into trouble." And we promised him
that would never happen.
We would never get into trouble.
Unfortunately, after about 2 minutes later, we were bored and looking for trouble. So I decided to employ a tactic that my brothers had taught me growing up in our neighborhood. Now, this tactic involves running up to a neighbor's doorbell or door, knocking on it or ringing the doorbell, and running away, diving behind a bush or a car, looking at their curious face and laughing with your buddies. People call this a lot of different things. Ding-dong ditching, practical joke, trespassing.
Now, the third house we rang the doorbell and ran away from employed the last definition,
Trespassing.
Now, just a quick side note, the first two houses William and I rang the doorbell, they didn't even catch us.
We didn't get caught.
No idea who it was.
However, the police nor our parents were interested in those two houses. So, looking for a way to close out our night, we were looking for a doozy of a house. After a couple minutes, we found it. Ceiling to floor covered in windows. Every single window lit up. Front door wide open. No cars or bushes in the front. Nowhere to hide. I looked at Zachary and said, "All right, dude, this is the one." As I crept up to the neighbor's door, I looked back and said, "Oh, I don't think I can actually do this one," as my confidence waned. But with a quick flick of Zachary's hand, it looked like I was in too deep, and I had to go for it. So I walked up and rang their doorbell and turned my face away, but not quick enough, so I hid from the camera doorbell that snapped my picture.
A ring, as seen on ABC's Shark Tank.
I sprinted down the block back to Zachary and said, "Oh, dude, I think they got my picture."
Now, William was playing it cool in front of everybody, but he was more like, "Oh my gosh, I think it caught me.
No.
We're going to get in trouble. Oh my gosh."
Zachary's leaving out the part where his voice started to quiver and tears fell from his eyes, and he said, "Do you think they're going to call my mom?"
Now, we can agree to disagree, but as the
All right.
brave leader of the group, I told us that we couldn't worry about what happened in the past, and we continued into the darkness looking for another house to hit. That was when it all went downhill.
Zachary's phone began to ring, and the weird thing is, who would be calling him at this hour? Who was out walking around or on their phone right now? It's ridiculous.
Exactly, but it was my mother. My mother was not very happy. She had received an alert on Nextdoor.
Nextdoor is our neighborhood's community website and app, which boasts over 500 members on the West Ghent side of things. Now, the funny thing is, every single member gets an email alert when a new thing is posted to the website.
And the email alert they got on that fateful day was a picture of my good buddy in black and white, turning away from the camera, with the caption, "Suspicious males wandering neighborhood, ringing doorbells and running away. We have contacted the police."
When there's a black and white photo of your face with a horrified look on it, running away from someone's front door at 1 in the morning, you're going to look like a criminal.
Now, I turned to William and gave him the news that we probably should get back.
I didn't believe Zachary. I'd been doing this whole ding-dong ditching thing for a long time, all right? I was competent in my skills to get away.
Now, I feared my mother a lot more than I feared the police.
Understandably.
So I sent him the photo that my mom had sent me, and I quickly walked home.
Staring at my famous face, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to go tell my mom and dad this. So I sprinted home and wound up in my parents' bedroom at 1 in the morning. I shook my mom awake with the words that all parents love to hear. "Mom, Dad, the police are downstairs. They want to talk to me." Now, all right, I was exaggerating a little bit. They weren't downstairs.
They were just on the way.
So, after my parents jumped out of bed, what? So confused, I got things smoothed over with them and explained the entire thing. After several hours, emails back and forth with the neighbor, and phone calls with the police, we got things smoothed over, and Zachary and I were allowed to see each other again.
But our privileges of walking the neighborhood have still been suspended until further notice. Now, reflecting on this story as a newly minted 18-year-old as of today, the older one of us two,
barely,
the more mature one of us two,
okay.
I realized that what would we change? Now, we probably could have worn better running shoes, or just stayed inside and watched the movie, or not trespassed. But I think the moral of this story is that we always have to be honest, we always have to be respectful, and that listening to our parents is the #1 thing.
Okay, what Zachary is trying to say is, if we were given the opportunity to do it again, would we? Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, yes we
Yep.
would.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't for that fateful night, we would not be up here sharing our experience with you and doing this for charity.
And that photo got us a free dinner from ForKids.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary and William. That was amazing. And we have a special gift for Zachary before he goes, because as you may have caught in the story, This is Zachary's 18th birthday. I can't think of many 18-year-olds that would give up their birthday for ForKids, but he is one. And the one thing we did hear is that the only thing Zachary wants for his birthday, no iPhone. Don't do it. He wants to win Story Slam. So vote for Zachary, and we have a cake for him. Hang on just a second. Presented by Ella McCormick.
Happy birthday. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to sing happy birthday at this point. We're ready to move on to our very next slammer, and you, ladies and gentlemen, are going to like this one. This next slammer regaled his audience with a true tale titled The Pet Who Will Always Be a Part of Me, a recounting of when he unknowingly was fed his pet goat. True story. Dr. Hamid Tavakli has traveled miles and years since his childhood in Iran. The psychiatrist at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth and associate professor at EVMS, Hamid immigrated to the U.S. in 1985. In fact, growing up in West Virginia, his nickname was the Iranian Hillbilly, which he embraced with pride. Now ensconced in the Hampton Roads medical community, the good doctor thought he had experienced just about everything that is iconic about living in this area. Then he tried deep sea fishing. Here is Dr. Hamid Tavakli and his story entitled The Day I Met Jesus at the Horizon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here, and I love this organization ForKids. Thank you, and I appreciate it. The story I'm about to tell you goes back years, many years ago. You see, my wife was born in New York City, but her family moved down here when she was in grade school. And she went to high school around here. She went to University of Virginia. She went to Eastern Virginia Med School, EVMS, right down the street. So this is her hometown. She's definitely a Virginia girl and definitely a Tidewater, Virginia Beach girl. And when we met in DC and got married, we moved around a bunch, a few times because of Air Force. And she wanted to settle here, and we settled here. And when we settled, she knew many more people. I knew nobody. And we would get invited to a variety of dinner parties. And at one of these dinner parties, one of her classmates from med school, who at the time was practicing as a physiatrist, he's a physical medicine doctor, very nice guy, David Levy, approached me, and I'm not sure if my wife put him up to it, but he approached me and said, Hamid, why don't you join me for a fishing trip this weekend? And you know, hindsight is 2020, and I think I may have made a different decision if I go back there to that time. But I said, David, sure, why not? Now, mind you, I grew up around mountains, and I know lakes, I know rivers. I never gone fishing, and definitely have never gone for deep sea fishing. So David says, just do this. Meet me at my house Friday afternoon after work, and we're going to drive down with a bunch of my colleagues, there are about a dozen of us, all docs, physiatrists, a few anesthesiologists, and we're going to drive down to Outer Banks and get on a boat and go deep sea fishing. The night before, we're going to eat someplace yummy and stay at a hotel, and it's going to be fun. I said, sure. So Friday after work, I dutifully show up at his house, and we get into one of his friend's trucks, and two other cars come, and we're a caravan of a bunch of dudes driving down to Outer Banks to go fishing. And I'm enjoying myself, and I'm feeling good about this trip. But I was optimistic. It didn't go bad. We stopped at a nice place. It was a dive of a place, and I ate stuff I normally don't eat. Fish, crab, shrimp, stuff I don't normally eat. I ate them, and we drank a lot of beer. We drank a lot of beer that night, I'll be honest with you. And then we end up at the hotel, and the hotel, there are 2 rooms. And I look at David, I'm like, there are 12 of us. He said, Hamid, don't worry, we do this all the time. It's going to be fine. So it was interesting. So we go to bed, and he says, just want to let you know, we got to get up 3:30. And I'm like, this is the kind of red flags. I'm like, you're kidding, 3:30? He said, yeah, because we got to meet the captain at the dock at 4:30, and we got to be ready to go. And I was like, fine, no problem. We get up super early in the morning. I'm still not feeling 100%. We go down, meet the captain. The captain gives us a little tour of his boat, nice boat, big boat. And again, they catch big fish. Like these guys, when you do deep sea fishing, I'm sure most of you know, it's big fish, like tuna and stuff like that. And they have big hooks, and they give us a little tour, and then the captain, shows the cabin and where the bathroom is, and the bathroom was really disgusting, it was gross. And David looks at me and says, Hamid, don't worry, we usually just piss on the side of the boat, and nobody uses the bathroom ever. Nobody does number 2 and stuff. I was like, okay, no problem. So we carry on, and the boat's heading out, and the water is pretty choppy. It's really choppy waters. And we go out, and I'm not feeling 100%. You see, I've never been on a cruise boat, nothing. Remember, pontoon, lake, that's it. So we go out, and we thankfully settle someplace. The anchors go down, and I'm like, I really can't hold it. This is embarrassing. I go to the side of the boat, and I vomit. It was really horrible. I vomited, and I'm like, David comes and says, hey, you okay? The other guys, you all right? I'm like, yeah, just a little seasick. Like, don't worry, it happens. And 10 minutes later, the water is still choppy, left, right, up, down. I'm not feeling well. I go to the other side of the boat, and I vomit again. And all this stuff is coming out from the night before. And like, oh, my God, I think I have to go for number 2. And I run into the cabin, open the door to the disgusting bathroom, and I shed all this stuff from the night before. And I come out, and then they're like checking on me. I'm like, maybe I'll stay in the cabin. David's like, you got to come out. You got to come out because you got to get fresh air. So I go out, and I vomit again, and then I vomit again. Now, mind you, this is like 7:30 or so, and I'm looking at him going, dude, when are we heading back? I'm not feeling well. He said, Hamid, we stay out here till sundown. It's like we got another 10 hours to go maybe. And that's when it hits me that, oh my God, we've gone through so much, and this is how I'm going to die. Deep sea fishing, out in the middle of nowhere. So as I'm like getting really woozy, these guys, they're all docked, so they open up their bags, there are all these medicines and other stuff, and they start putting patches on me, giving me pills, not doing it. If you guys know, once you're in motion sickness, seasick, you're past that point. So now, not only am I dehydrated, I'm seasick, I'm getting the effects of these medication, I'm on the side of the boat, my head against the rails, it's nice and cool, drooling out off the side of my mouth, and I'm looking at the horizon. Now mind you, I'm not a Christian, neither is David, just so you know, but out there, I'm praying to God, saying, how am I gonna survive this? And as this is happening, I see an image rising from the horizon. And again, I know you're thinking this guy's psychotic, maybe I was delirious, maybe it was the medication, but something was rising. And I really think it was Jesus, like something like was rising above the horizon. And then I hear voices, the captain's shouting, oh my God, I can't believe it, we're pulling so many fish. So these guys are catching like heavy duty tuna and like apparently like record breaking weight, like 80, 90, 100 pounds. And their refrigerators are getting full of ice, and the captain's shouting, we gotta head back because we have no more room. And as I'm hearing this, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And David comes to me and says, hey man, I really think it was your vomit that attracted all this tuna. So we head back, and as we go back to the dock, he and his friend hold me up, and I come to the shore. And as soon as I put my feet on the ground, the motion sickness was gone. It was over. And that's when I realized that the most I'm going to do is sunbathing at the beach. No more deep sea fishing for me. Hindsight is 2020, and I think I made a foolish decision. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Wow. Very good, Dr. Hamid. That was a great story. And as they say, the Lord does work in mysterious ways. Anyone have any Dramamine? Oh, brought back bad memories. Well, in my 30 years of doing Joe's job for 13 News, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, the one job I had prior experience in was real estate. That's right. Our next slammer has climbed to the mountaintop in that field. 45 years of success. Dick Thurman was a longtime partner with William E. Wood and is currently the chairman of the board of Howard Hanna William E. Wood Real Estate and Westminster Canterbury. And does he ever have a story? He's just the kind of guy who, when introduced to 4Kids by his dear friend Gary Broom, just had to say yes when called upon. And we love him for that. Let's have a warm welcome for Dick Thurman, and the title of his story is You Can't Be Successful Unless You're Happy. Dick.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, what do I have here? A little water, it just happens to look like wine. Welcome, everybody. I want to dedicate this to my dear friend, Gary Broom, who introduced me a number of years ago to 4Kids. My story today is very dear to me. It is about a wonderful woman that shaped my life in a big way. Very, very, very important to me. And she was a dear friend. She took me under her wing and showed me so many important life lessons. Well, this woman's name was Ann Wood. Ann passed away about 10 years ago at the age of 92. And we became such close friends. I would go to her apartment at Westminster Canterbury, and I would sit down and I would talk to her about the most interesting things. We'd sit on her couch, and we would, sort of like this couch right here. And I'd sit on one end, and she'd sit on the other end. And we'd talk about friends, we'd talk about family, we'd talk about things that were important to us. And one of the things we talked about was our people. Our people, the real estate agents, and the employees of William E. Wood & Associates. But she didn't refer to them as agents or employees. She talked about our people or her people because they were very dear to her. Now, we'd sit on that couch, and she would take a little sip of her scotch. Whoa. She didn't do that. She was a lady. She was a Southern belle. And we would talk. I would drink a beer, and she would talk about some of the most interesting things. But what she really wanted to talk about was her dear people. And those dear people were the reason that we were successful. Now, she would take me down the road of talking about the time we did this and the time we did that. But she always took care of her people. Now, Bill Wood was known as the driving force behind William E. Wood. He'd want to open up another office. He would want to be very, very aggressive. But she was known as the heart of our company. She always wanted to come up with different things that benefited our agents because she knew that she cared for them, and we'd be successful if we took care of our people. Now, she would do things that were very unusual in the real estate industry. We were the first company in the nation to have a profit-sharing program and health insurance for our agent. It was unheard of at that time. Well, we were having one of our meetings on the couch at Westminster, having drinks, and drinks were always a part of it. And we would talk about what we thought was important. And after a few drinks, we got to this topic of happiness. What was true happiness? What really made us happy? And I thought, well, you know what? I got this figured out. I thought to myself, you know, you can't be happy unless you're successful. Wealth, market share, being aggressive in the market, stuff. I like to acquire stuff. Well, she looked at me with her beautiful blue eyes, and in her deep southern drawl, she said, "Dick, you know, I don't think you have that right. Actually, you have to be successful. You can't be successful unless you're happy." And I said, to myself, I thought it was, you can't be happy unless you're successful. Well, I kind of cocked my head and looked at her strangely, and I thought to myself, I had those things, those wealth, but does that really make me happy? You know, it really didn't. It was family, friends, being with people I cared about, helping people. That was really what made me happy. And, you know what? I told her, you're right. You can't be successful unless you're happy. Well, I had seen the light. So I got our marketing department together, and we talked about how we can get the word out. The patriarch had spoken. So what we did is we got a video camera, and we videotaped her, and sitting on that couch with me, interviewing her, and talked about happiness, true happiness. And she just lit up the screen. Well, we took this back to our managers, and they went wild. They loved it. We painted it on the sales office walls. We put plaques and pins. It was just an incredible event in our company. So she was truly right. You can't be successful unless you're happy. Now, let me tell you another story. I had this agent I wanted to recruit. I worked hard to recruit this person, so hard. I wanted to get him in our organization. He was successful. He was well respected. And he knew Ann Wood and he respected her. So I decided I'd get that videotape and I would go down to a conference room where I would meet him. And the conference room was in a bank, and it had a video VHS tape player. Most of you are too young to know what a VHS tape is. It's one of these right here. This is the predecessor to the iPad and iPhone. But you had to take this clunky old camera, and you would record, and then you would take it and put it in a recorder, and then you would play it on this clunky TV. Well, I got into the room and I put it into the tape player, slipped it in, and it went boom, because they were kind of old, and it started spinning, and I started praying that it was going to work because I really wasn't very good at this. And lo and behold, her picture came up on the TV, and she talked about what the true meaning of happiness was. And you know what? When that tape ended, I looked at him, and he looked at me. And I said, "Are you really happy where you are?" Within a week, he was with us. Leave it to Ann Wood to get and recruit one of the top agents in Hampton Roads. Well, let me tell you, let me ask you something. You know, right now, things are pretty tough. Pandemic, lots of masks, country's divided. You know, we're always chasing stuff. Always stuff. Let me ask you, what makes you happy? Thank you very, very much.
All right, nice formal ovation. Bravo. Thank you, Dick. Great story. Now, I know you've all been voting all along. Maybe it began with a slammer you know, a relative or a close friend. That's a given. But then along comes another slammer who's made you laugh or cry, choke on your popcorn, so you throw a few more votes their way. Hey, nobody's looking. But don't think you're done. Not yet. Not just yet. This slammer, retired Lieutenant Regina Lee Cuffey, is a former slammer who knocked it out of the park last time. The firstborn of 8 children, Regina spent 18 years in foster care system. She graduated from NSU and went into law enforcement, where she rapidly became known as Officer Friendly. And get this, Regina, after winning the Slammy in 2016, Regina signed up to be an after-school tutor for the children in the 4Kids Beyond the Bell program. Awesome. What a woman. Her story: dated, ducked, and dodged. From her mouth to our ears, we give you Lieutenant Regina Lee Cuffey.
Hey, I'm going to add another D to that. We're going to put at the end of that, did it. Dated, ducked, dodged, and did it. Okay, my story begins back in 1974 as a freshman at Norfolk State University, and I was a physical ed major, which meant that I had to take swimming as a requirement. And so, you know, back then, black folk and the water was not cool. So I was in this class, and there were so many of us in the class because we were majors, so it was a required course. And most of us could not swim, had no experience, had never been introduced to water at that level where we had to be there. So anyway, I met this young man. I met my husband. Didn't know then he would be my husband, but he was one of those people who never gave up in swimming. The rest of us laughed. We spent a lot of time, wasted a lot of time, but he never gave up. In fact, we would say, Coach, when he finishes, we're not going to have any water in the pool. He never gave up. And so let's fast forward just a little bit. That was Mr. Jeremiah Cuffey. I met him in 1974. Okay. About 5 years later, after I finished Norfolk State and had decided I wouldn't teach because I didn't want to kill anybody's children, I decided that I needed a real job. So I was working temporarily in the mall, Military Circle Mall, at McCrory's. I know you all, most of you may not even remember that, but it's a very old story. I worked in McCrory's, loved it. I was working one day diligently, and a young man came through and said, "Hey, I know you." And I said, "I know you. You're the guy in swimming when we didn't have any water left in the pool." And he said, yeah. But listen, he passed. Most of us failed because he never gave up. And today he's an excellent swimmer. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit more. I'll be fast forwarding quite a bit because this is 48 years of a story that I have to tell you. So as we started to date, and every time he came to see me, he had on his brown leisure suit and his black shirt and his black shoes, and I was so tired of that little country man. And I decided, oh, I need something more than this. So I started to duck him, dodge him, do all the dump him, all kinds of things. And so that went on for a while, and we parted our ways, and we were still friends because, listen, I gained a family when I gained him because the family loved me from day one. They absolutely loved me, and they were wonderful, and I loved them. And so whenever something was going on, they would always call me and let me know, come on down and get something to eat, or we'll send you a plate or whatever. So years and years of doing this. And finally, during the course of, I started with Norfolk Police, and then I ended up at Norfolk State University as a police lieutenant. And during the course of that, not dating, Jeremiah came to Norfolk State for a job. And my chief said to me, because everybody knew him, because everybody knew who I was dating and not dating or running from or ducking and dodging. So my chief asked me very frankly one day, she said, "A Jeremiah Cuffey has applied for a job. Is there going to be any trouble?" I said, "Oh, no, we don't date anymore. Just hire him." I said, "For one thing, I live around the corner, and he lives way in the country in Chesapeake, and he'll be at work long before I get here, believe me." So that was good. She hired him, and he turned out to be an excellent employee, but we weren't dating. We weren't dating because I believed that I shouldn't be dating somebody who's working under me, and I was his supervisor. So sometimes when he would mention something about our relationship, I would threaten him with that. Say another word and see what happens to you. So that's how I kept that at bay. So we spent years of just doing that. Let's fast forward a little more. During the course of working at Norfolk State University, I had an opportunity to travel, and my chief's niece owned a bridal boutique. So I was in Richmond one day, and I bought a bridal gown, and somebody was saying, why? I said, well, you know, someday I'll get married, so I'll just keep this gown. Okay, got a gown, nobody to marry, and hadn't made a decision about getting married. So finally, as time went on, Jeremiah found other employment. He left Norfolk State, he went to ODU, and he finally went to Thomas Nelson, where he retired from. But during the course of those years, I discovered that Jeremiah, his sisters called me because they loved me and they always wanted me to marry him. They would say, please marry our brother. I would say, no, not ready for that. But they called me one day to say, Jeremiah is getting married. And my God, I began to shake in my boots. So I said, oh God. So it turned out that he was going to get married on a cruise, and a hurricane came. I don't know which one. I asked him which one it was. We don't know. Anyway, the hurricane came. He did get married. Something happened to that relationship. Good. So I said, this is time for me to make my move, because I knew that without a doubt this man loved me. I had dated so many guys, but this one really loved me. So it was time for me to make my move. So I made my move, and I began to date him a little bit, and then we began to get a little bit more serious. And in 2006, I believe, we became engaged. So by this time, Jeremiah was a minister, and he had a church, and I had invited someone to speak for his anniversary. And then I invited them, in the tradition of black folk, come to dinner right after church at Mom's house. I knew they would be fed well and they would enjoy it. So they came to dinner, and somebody in that setting said to my mother-in-law, how is it that they have dated so long and nobody has talked to them about marriage? And I started to stand up and say, well, it hasn't been that long. And my mother-in-law stood up with both hands on her hips, said, it's been 32 years, because I've been counting, and it's time to do something or nothing. And I said, oh my God. Now this was in 2011 when she did, and she was 80 then, she's 90 now. She said that in 2011. So that was in March. A few months later, a friend of mine was about to have her 25th wedding anniversary, a chosen sister, and she had this beautiful home and a lovely lawn and fountain in the yard. And she said to me jokingly, she said, you know, Aunt Regina, you and Jeremiah can use this on Sunday because we're doing our thing on Saturday. And I said, oh, please, please. So I called one of my girlfriends. I said, you know, that Michelle is a trip. She has offered me the opportunity to be married at her home, but why wouldn't she tell me ahead of time? And my girlfriend, whose name is Barbara Miller, and who can do anything and everything, she can make it happen. Barbara said to me, now, Regina, you know, we can do this. This is on a Wednesday. She said, we can do this, but you can't tell me on Friday you've changed your mind. I said, girl, I got this. I'm ready. I'm ready. So that evening, Barbara called me to say, you really can't change it, because I got a wedding cake already donated to you. And I got some other things for the wedding. I was thinking, oh my God, I really have to do this. So I called Jeremiah at work. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just walking, checking buildings. I said, well, we're getting married. He said, I know we are. I know you'll make your mind up soon. I said, no, we're getting married Sunday. He said, Sunday? I said, yes. He said, that's short notice. I said, well, we don't have to do it. He said, oh, yes, we do have to do it. So I told my sister-in-law, and I told a couple of friends. I told some people at work. It's word of mouth only. Y'all got to tell these folk about this wedding, because I don't have time for invitations. And let me tell you, on the day of that wedding, which was, we talked about this on Wednesday, and we married on Sunday. So that's the 11th, and we married on, we talked on the 5th, and we married on the 11th. So, is that right? Anyway, we married 5 days later. So anyway, at that wedding, there were so many people. My friends who owned the home said, how in the world did they get this many people with no invitations? Honey, they had more people than we had. It was standing room only. We had a huge tent, silver fountains, gorgeous flowers, fountain in the backyard, running a pool. We had the best wedding. I could have never planned it so well, because Barbara said, you don't get to change your mind when I start this ball to rolling. And so that has been a blessing. And so now that's been 38 years, and we add 11 to that, and that's 37 years plus 11. We've been married 11 years, happily married. So that's 48 years of this process. And so what do we learn from this? Sometimes we don't even know what we need. And did I tell you that when I first graduated from Norfolk State, I was engaged then, but that didn't work out. But here's the deal. Sometimes we don't know what we need. And then it turns out sometimes that the very things that we need most are right in front of us. If we would take a moment and just breathe and just appreciate. And so I want to dedicate this song to my husband, which I often do. And give me a moment. You've been faithful, you've been true. When you've done all that you can do. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You've applauded for the rest. Now it's your time to be blessed. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You've been faithful. You've been faithful. You've been true. And you've done all that you can do. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. He waited for so long, but he held on, he was strong. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. He waited for so long, and he held on, he was strong. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You've been faithful, you've been true, and you've done all that you can do. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. My name is Regina Lee Cuffey, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you. Woo-hoo!
Fantastic. And the gazillion of us out there raise our own rafters in applause for the incomparable Regina Lee Cuffey. Outstanding. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all gazillion of you, thank you for being with us this evening. We really missed you right out in front of us, but happy you came together in support of 4Kids for this storied virtual event. Thaler?
All right, let's give it up for all of our slammers. It has been a great night. Here we go. This evening is just the beginning now. The voting has started. It's going to go all week. It'll finish up next Sunday, and we will announce the following Monday who the 2020 Slammer will be. So, click, view, and vote at www.forkids.org or text SLAMMERS to 41444.
And yes, be on the lookout and stomp for the cause on both Instagram and on Facebook and share it with your friends. Thaler worked out really well tonight.
It did. And Joe, thank you so much for being here tonight. It has
pleasure. Thank you.
A pleasure hanging out with you.
You got it.
And I want to thank everybody out there today. We couldn't do this without you. You are the ones that give our families a happy ending. Thanks for coming. Stay safe. And thank you.
Thank you, everybody.